still trusting? Hot creeper, she sat there while I dumped it out. Hardly even looked at it. Planning, and even flirting with me.
All right.
So I just
Okay,
love that bit because you know,
just
because
before I just want
go
to
on.
explain to viewers what's going on in the clip before you jump in. But you know, this is the actress, the character in that we're watching there. She has just stolen money from her employers, and she's in a strange sort of dysfunctional relationship, and she's escaping town. And she's going to end up in the Bates Motel, and the rest is history.
Yeah, so we're on one bit of the story which hasn't even got to the juicy bit where she's about to get killed. She's already in this kind of like having an affair with this guy who shouldn't be because he hasn't got any money. So why is she even having an affair with him? Jeez, you know. And then
Where's the incentive there?
what's he? Oh, but he's very good looking. No, he's very good. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
So she's got the money, but I just really think that whole sequence there's literally nothing happening. She's just driving. You have her expressions and you have some of the voices in her head of what's going on and her anxiety, but the music is really telling the whole story. And it's just not only saying this woman's just stolen money and she's anxious about it, but it's kind of giving you this sort of precursor to this really shocking event, which is literally just around the corner. And so he almost sets something up and then just completely pulls the rug again, which I just think is so clever. And the music is quite upfront and in your face in terms of it's like another character in the story almost. And I just really like the way he's using, so we mentioned he's just using strings and they have mutes on all the time. So the sound is a bit more sort of slightly more muffled than when strings are playing normally. So it has this it gives a kind of impression of feeling a bit more like it's internal or underwater or something. So that the way they're playing almost quite abrasively, but with mutes, it's like she's got all this raging anxiety, but it's inside her. It's kind of got that sort of feeling to it. And the sort of, again, those repetitious, those sort of repetitious motifs, quite modern, give you really kind of set that anxiety feeling off. And the way it kind of has distinct sections that just keep going back and forth, like her thoughts, she keeps going, thinking about the same things in rotation until it kind of reaches that crescendo as the rain comes down. And notice how the windscreen wipers go in time with the track, which is again so clever as it kind of reaches this astonishing climax when really all she's doing is pulling up to the hotel, which should be a safe place because she's moving away from the cops and everything. But yeah, it's going, okay, don't make a cup of tea now because something terrible's going to happen. And the one time, just to finish this a little bit, is the one time the strings don't play with mutes is during the shower scene, which is probably the most famous horror scene ever in the history of film music, where the strings are just they're not playing with mutes there, so that the strings suddenly jump into focus and like you literally kind of fall off your chair.
I love Ruth. I love
the shower scene.
The shower scene.
No, I was just going to say that the shower scene originally
wasn't going to have music in it. It was never going to have music.
And Hitchcock said, no, it'll be much more powerful if there's no music. And Herman was like, well, I've got something great planned. And Hitchcock was like, no. And you never argued with Hitchcock. And then they played it. And Hitchcock said to Bernard Herrmann, I think we need music. And Herman was like, I've got just the thing. But what made you change your mind? And Hitchcock went, well, you know, we all make mistakes.
Ruth, I love that you brought up the foreshadowing. Like, in reality, it's just what's happening in the scene. She's just going on a drive and showing up at a hotel. Like, it shouldn't be that consequential. But the music, and I think in horror especially, like that genre, music does this a lot. I'm thinking of the opening to The Shining, for example, right? That amazing synth, that amazing synth score. I wish we could pull it up right now, but it foreshadows, like, it's just a beautiful drive through this canyon, but it's, you know, it foreshadows things that are about to come. And those little stabby in Psycho, those kind of stabby string sounds are completely kind of in the family musically of the iconic, you know, stabbing scene. So there's this foreshadowing of what's going to happen with her, which is a really powerful kind of subconscious storytelling that the music is doing for us, right?
Yes, exactly like that in The Shining. Because you could have something really light. Like sometimes in a horror film, they start off with something really upbeat to sort of lull you into this. You know, it's like you could do the opposite. But I think it's so powerful when you set it up and then you just don't know when shit's going to go down. You know, it's like really tense.
It's really internal, that scene. Like, you're not clear, you know, all the voiceover, you're not clear whether that's actually happening or that's her paranoia in her head. And, you know, there's this whole aspect, you know, any great artist, Hitchcock was digging deep into the culture that he was from. And, you know, 1950s America had this kind of sort of Norman Rockwell exterior. And there was this whole sort of dark underbelly that when just that image of Janet Leigh, you know, the makeup isn't quite right. She's sort of got this paranoia in her head. She's stolen money. And it just sort of digs underneath this sort of false perfection of kind of... And I think that was the power of Psycho, was that no one had ever seen a film like that before. No one had ever got as dark as that. No one had ever killed off their lead character in the first 20 minutes. And no one had ever used strings like that.
I love how her expression changes as well, because she looks like a sort of like she could be innocent and she's very pretty and everything, and then as I think it is the voices in her head, because like nearly at the end of the drive she kind of like starts going or I might just get away with this shit, you know. Stupid sods. Because, you know, they're all like typical men in that time, just taking her for granted, just flirting with her, and she just sees an opportunity. And I just think it's a really cool film at the time. It's just so modern. You're like, yeah. And then she gets killed, which is not so good, but poor Janet.
Well, this is great. And, you know,
I couldn't watch that film. You know, because I spent most of my childhood with my parents going on and on about how it was the scariest film they'd ever seen, and kind of acting out all the scariest bits, you know, the shower scene, the Martin Balsam scene. And I couldn't bring myself to watch the film until I was like 18 or 19 because I was so terrified by it, just hearing about it.
And then what was it like when you watched it? Were you terrified, or were you over it by then?
It was pretty scary. The other film that was like that was Alien. You know, I remember at school everyone talking about that film, and when I finally watched it, it was as terrifying as they'd said.
But it is that thing of setting up a whole world, isn't it? So it's like, and the music does that, doesn't it? It just sets that which in your clip, the vertigo as well. It just takes you into that space and makes you feel like just really uneasy and really unsettled the whole time, and it just doesn't let you off the hook at all. And it's those kind of chords that he uses. There's just no respite. There's no resolution. There's no like breath.
On the subject, we have a comment from Shannon here. Why did my parents use the same scare tactic?
Excellent. Parents are bastards.
Well, yeah, this is a great way to start off. Thanks, Ruth. Undeniable Ops.
I just love that film. It's such a great study, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
And you know, it changed, you know, horror, the slasher film comes from that film. Texas Chainsaw, everything comes from that film. It completely revolutionized horror, and you can't separate. And this is why we're doing this. You can't separate the music from that equation.
Imagine the scene without the music, right? Imagine the scene. It just be she'd be driving there.
Hitchcock did, and he demanded music.
Right.
I don't think you wouldn't stay the course of the scene because it's a long scene and there's nothing happening.
Right.
So it's so this is the stuff you dream about, working with, a collaboration like that. It's so cool.
Well, this is great. We've gotten through 2 films.
And hi to Shannon and Undeniable Ops, by the way.
Yes, thanks for chiming in. Please DM. Please DM, and we'll put your comments on air. Undeniable Ops says you can't rely on the ambience of a car engine.
Okay.
Yeah. All directors who say we like realism and natural sounds and come on.
Okay, so talking about that, I'd like to move us out from the dark atmospherics of Hitchcockian thrillers to the bright open space of a spaghetti western, and I'd like to play a choice of my own, which is a clip from For a Few Dollars More.
Here we go. Got a little technical glitch there. Give us a second here. For some reason, that clip didn't get... There it is. Okay, we got it. Here we go. Here we go.
It's going to get edited out for the online version. This will never have happened.
I think we'll all have to act it out.
When the chimes end, pick up your gun. Try and shoot me, Colonel. Just try.
Careless of you, old man. Try this. Now we start.
All right.
Okay. So
Classic.
I'm just classic. So just a little bit of context for anyone out
such a
there who hasn't
classic.
seen this film. Lee Van Cleef and Clint Eastwood are two bounty hunters, and they're hunting this truly evil psychopath who you just saw get shot. And Lee Van Cleef has this musical clock, that plays this tune that he plays throughout the film, and that Indio also has one. And it turns out that Indio killed, particularly savagely, Lee Van Cleef's sister. And there's a previous scene where Indio does the same thing. He plays the tune on the clock to